And before we proceed, nagpaparapol po tayo ng Wi-Fi, smartphones, and load po, courtesy of our program partners and sponsors, PLDT Smart and Globe. And you know what, Silvio? Some say that learning is personal. The efforts to succeed must come from the learners themselves. The big question now is, how do we motivate our children for self-directed learning? The next session shall dish out the answers. Our next speaker is an education entrepreneur who focuses on innovative learning, family, and personal finance. He is the chairman of Homeschool Global, who oversees big picture directions of an international homeschool system across 27 countries. He is the founder of Homeschool Association of the Philippine Islands and co-author of a book called Why You Should Homeschool. He is a registered financial planner and an international keynote speaker.
And how about this, Helen? He's also the founder and president of the Parent School Company. And as president, he creates and delivers keynote messages and curates resources that might help equip our young families in the areas of money, marriage, and parenting. He is also a graduate of BS Management from Ateneo de Manila and holds a Certificate of Advanced Education Leadership from Harvard. He is currently pursuing a Master in Innovation and Entrepreneurship. And in 2016, he was nominated for the 10 Outstanding Young Man Award.
In all his endeavors, his desire is to help change the world one family at a time. Partners in Education, help me welcome Mr. Edric Mendoza.
Good morning, Paul. Can you hear me? Can you see me? I hope you're able to hear me and see me. It is a privilege to be with you all. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Yusek Umali, and thank you for that very informative talk, Dr. Javier, earlier. I was also listening and learning from you as you were sharing all of those things. And I love how it fits neatly into this conversation. So again, I hope you can all hear me and see me. Sa mga magulang po, wherever you are, and to all of the beloved DepEd team members, family members all over, I want to encourage you with these words because this is my deep passion. It's time for us to change. So in Filipino, if you're with someone in the room watching this, say, magbago ka na. Everywhere I go, and I have the privilege of sharing and speaking, that is my desire, that we will all be changed somehow. So, paano tayo magbabago today? How will we change today? What I've been asked to share about has to do with learning and how to encourage our children to learn. So I will be sharing my slide now, and I hope you're able to see this. The main mindset for this first part that I have the privilege of sharing is motivating. How do we help our children want to learn at home? Kasi nga po, the challenge that we have, that our children are at home, would be, how do I get them out of gadgets or doing other things sa bahay nila? Kung ano man ang itsura ng bahay ninyo, how do I motivate them to learn? So this will be the first step. In 15 minutes, which is all I've really been given, I'd like to share with you some tips and practical mindsets on how you as a parent, and to our beloved DepEd team members and officials all over, how we can work with parents in helping them motivate the children to learn at home. And po. So the framework I want to use is research that covers about 70 years of learning. This was gathered by a lady named Dr. Deborah Bell, and I heard this at a conference in Brazil in 2016. Ang sabi po niya, as an education psychologist, she put together 70 years worth of research of how children learn best. At ang nakita po niya, there are 8 things that are essential, right? So these are the 8. I will show them on the screen. And because of time, I will go straight to how we can apply this at home. The first 4 believing their teacher and fellow students care about them, observing other students who model what success looks like, having a teacher who is available to provide feedback and encouragement, and having plenty of physical activity, sunshine, and fresh air. This will be my focus for this first talk on how we can motivate. How can we get our children to learn when they have to do it at home and there are many distractions sa mga bahay natin? Paano ba? Ano bang pwede natin gawin based on the research? So I will now go to these 4 items and I will personalize it for parents. This is primarily for parents. What can you do after we heard the wonderful framework and recommendations of Dr. Javier earlier and the opening remarks earlier of Yusek Tonio Bali and the others? What can we do? Here are 4 things. And ito po, we've also found ways to apply this and make this relevant to our partners and team members sa Happy po. This is a group of leaders and moms and parents who are also helping in the home education space and the other involvements I have. So let's take a look. The first principle, we want to help make sure that kayo po bilang parent, if there's any time in the world where the family is forced to be together, which will provide one of 2 opportunities, great problems and stress or great opportunities to strengthen the families and the relationships. Ngayon po yun. Now is the time to do that. So the first thing we want to do to help our children be motivated to want to learn is we need to go back to some basics. We need to let them know as a facilitator, as a parent, that you care about them. At ito pong napakagandang resource, no? Maybe some of you heard this already. Si Dr. Gary Chapman talks about 5 love languages. Meron po daw 5 ways to help people know how much you love them. Kasi po, ang pwede natin gawin is we can say, I love you to our children, but that might not be their love language. And if that's not their love language, they will not feel loved. They will not feel like we care for them. So, kailangan natin maintindihan, ano ba yung 5 languages? Ano ba yung language ko? And what is the language of my child? So that, and here's the challenge to the parents here and to the teachers who might be working with the children at home, how can I speak their language so they know that I care about them? Ayan, so let's go through it. Ano po yung 5? The first is we need to ask ourselves, do we feel loved through physical touch? Embrace, di ba? Or pagpamilya, kiss sa cheek, ganyan. Ano ba yung gusto natin? How do we feel loved? Do we feel loved through these physical touches? Right? If it is this, then now you know. Ang tanong ngayon sa bata, sa anak ninyo, how do you know? Do you know if their love language is touch? Right? Paano nyo malalaman? Ito yung mga bata na lalapit nyo, mami, pahag naman, or mami, bago matulog, pwede pakiss yan. They like physical touch, and therefore, most likely that is their love language. So what do? If we know that's their language, then we speak that language to them. Okay, so baka yung iba dyan, hindi yan ang language ng anak ko, then what could it be? Maybe it's time. For many children, lalo yung mga batang maliit, no? So sa mga hindi nakakaalam, I have 6 children. My children range from 17 years old all the way down to I have a 1-year-old and 9 months, right? So we've been with children quite a bit, and we work with even our local church. We've worked a lot with kids, and for young kids, ito po, many of them, their main love language, love is spelled T-I-M-E. Ano bang ibig sabihin nun? Meron pa tayong pagkakataon na to be with the child undistracted. Quality time. Ayan. So for the children, that will say, Mommy, masyado ka naman busy. Daddy, pwede ba dito ka muna? Mag-usap tayo. Samahan mo naman ako or maglaro tayo. Give me quality time. Ayan. This is something that is important, and we need to ask ourselves, are we able to show this and give this to our children? Because when we do, and if this is their language, for many young kids, as I mentioned, it is, then this is how they will know we care about them. Number 3, bakang iba dyan, kahit ihag mo, ayaw. Pag-spend ng time, ayaw ng bata, gusto niya, sinasabihan mo siya ng, anak, ang galing-galing mo naman. I'm so proud of you. Ang sipag mo mag-aaral. I see how you're working. I look at you and I watch you and I know sometimes you're tired but you're doing it. I'm so proud of you. Mahal na mahal kita. I am so proud of you. Yan. These are words of affirmation. Is this the love language of your child? Is that your love language? Ayan. So isipin po natin, ang nagiging problema natin minsan is our language is different from our child. And therefore, medyo awkward. But like I said earlier, right, if we want them to help be motivated in learning, we need to show them that we care. And therefore, the challenge is for us as parents to now say, okay, because I love them and I want them to know that, I will now speak their language. Ayan. So, dalawa na lang po. What are the other two? Service. Ito yung, Mami, pwede ba magluto ka ng merienda? Ayan. So, service, acts of service. There might be children who really like it when we do things for them. Kung nanay, cooking, or baka si tatay, things that you would do. Daddy, tulungan mo naman ako dito. Baka you can help me with this project kasi hindi ko kaya. And then Daddy will come and help. So kung ano man yun, things you do for them, an act of service might be the way they feel loved. And if that's how they feel loved, what will we do again? Ayan, we need to speak this language to them. Huli, the fifth language is gifts. Hindi po kailangan ito yung mga mamahaling bagay. May mga bata na kahit simpleng bagay lang, natandaan mo na hilig nila itong snack na ito, or itong maliit na bagay na ito, or may nakita silang bulaklak sa labas, binigay mo sa anak mong babae, natuwa siya yan. So gifts, thoughtful acts like this, or thoughtful gestures like gifts. Ayan po, that's a love language. So once again, if we want to motivate our children at home, this first principle, we need to let them know we care about them. And how do we do that? Wag po yung, ito yung gusto ko dahil ganito ako. This is how I was raised. This is how I feel loved. We need to now speak their language because we love them. At ito po, isa pang bonus sa mga may asawa. Kung kasama mo may asawa mo ngayon, speak their love language also para mababawasan ang tension sa inyong bahay. No? So, if it is touch, time, words, service, or gifts, find out what that is and gawin mo ngayon. Maybe what you need to do right now, kung kasama mo yung anak mo sa kwarto, or yung asawa mo ngayon, figure out ano ba yung love language sila, tingnan mo sila ngayon, and apply it right now. You might say something like, honey, ang sipag mo naman, nagtatrabaho ka ngayon. I'm so proud of you. Or anak, ang sipag-sipag mo, I'm so proud of yan. Go, apply the love language right now. O yan po. So that is number one. Let's move to number two. Number two, if we want to motivate our children to learn at home, we need to be able to ask ourselves, napapakita ko ba sa kanila? Napaka-importante po nito because nasa bahay na tayo, nasa bahay din ng bata, many of us work from home, di ba? Ang nagiging situation ng mga magulang. Kung di man, pabalik-balik kayo, pero yung bata nasa bahay, nakikita lahat ng halos ng ginagawa ninyo. So, if we are to motivate them to learn at home, we now need to show them the right behaviors. Alam niyo po, nag-post ako kanina habang pinapakinggan ko si Yusek at saka si Dr. Jimenez, pinost ko yung mga quotes nila at may sumagot. Ang sabi sa akin ng isang viewer ko sa LinkedIn, isa po siyang doktor, sabi niya, the development of a child, the personality is already established by age 5 before they even go to school. Kaya napaka-importante in English. That's why it's very important for the parents to be mindful of how they are modeling the right attitude and behavior to their children. Kung gusto nating ganahan ang mga bata, if they want to be motivated to learn, we need to model the right behaviors that will make them want to also learn. Halimbawa, pag sinabi natin sa mga bata, mga bata, kailangan pag nasa gadgets kayo, gagamitin yan para sa pag-aaral. Pati ako, bilang magulang, gagamitin ko itong gadget para sa productive use. I want to do this to do work, kanyan. Pero nakikita nila, most of the day, naglalaro kayo ng games sa cellphone ninyo. Or kundi man, di ba, ang senior ni Dr. Javier kanina na napaka-shocking. Baka naman kayo nagpa-porno kung ano man ang ginagawa sa cellphone, nakita ng bata. If we want them to do the right behavior, we need to model this right behavior. So kailangan natin ipakita ito sa mga bata. Ayan, kita niyo sa photo na ito, no? Everybody's on their gadgets. Ito yung nagiging problema natin ngayon sa mundong ito. Nothing wrong with gadgets and digital if we use it to be creators more than consumers, producers more than for just entertainment. No? So, yan po. Very important. We need to show this. Marami pa po akong gustong ibanggit tungkol dito, but because I have to keep to my time, I will move on. Let me give you a free tip. Kung ang bata ay addicted na sa digital, ito po ang isang magandang resource na ginagamit namin. It's called Digital Cocaine by Brad Huddleston. Meron pong 3 signs. Baka po kayo or yung anak ninyo are already experiencing signs of digital addiction, which is dangerous for learning, dangerous for behavior, dangerous for relationships. No? 3 pong A, anger, anxiety, at saka po anhedonia. Ang anhedonia, hindi na po kayo na-excite. Kasi nga po, sa tagal ng paggamit ng digital, sa simula, uy, wow, may message, uy, may nakita akong bago, may natutunan akong bago, but because you're using it so much for all the wrong reasons, too much entertainment, ayan, parang wala ka ng feeling. And this is what leads children to what we've seen, suicide and even depression because of anhedonia. So please be careful. Model the right behavior. Let's move to number 3. Ito po. we need to be able to provide feedback, encouragement, and discipline, right? Feedback, encouragement, and discipline. And the beauty of your setup is you are working with the teachers, the amazing teachers across the region of the Vismin, no? So I would suggest you work with them. How can you also provide feedback, encouragement, and discipline dahil kayo po ang nasa bahay? For example, ito po, dalawang example. Si Dr. Andrew Pudawa is a resource that I've contacted sa America po. He was saying for children, if we want to help motivate them to learn and provide these things, we need to provide what's called a ceiling and a floor. Ayan po, ceiling and a floor. Ito pong ceiling, ito po yung kung ayaw natin yung bata that is just on a gadget and they're not using it for learning, we need to motivate them and say, okay anak, kung tinapos mo ito at nakinig ka sa teacher and you do well, sa araw na ito, then I will give you a reward. Yan. So incentive, that's the ceiling. So something that they will work towards. Halimbawa po, usong-uso ngayon, kung online shopping kayo or nakita nyo nangyayari sa digital space, marami mga mystery box, no? Pwede rin nyo gawin sa bahay. May isa akong nanay na alam na yun ang ginagawa niya. Mystery jar. Yung mga gusto ng mga bata, maliit lang na bagay. Pinapasok niya ngayon sa jar. Tapos ang sinasabi niya is, if you finish this certain work you need to do, ayan, pwede kang magbunot sa jar at meron kang incentive or reward. So yan po, provide encouragement, something that will stretch them. Pero ngayon, kung hindi ginawa ng bata, sabi niya, hindi, gusto ko pa rin mag-YouTube or dito na lang ako sa cellphone ko, hindi ko gagawin yan dahil hindi ko naman masyadong gusto yung incentive na yan. So maybe what you need to now do is also have a floor, a consequence. Ito na po, this is where discipline comes in. And ang next speaker po natin will go more into that, so I will not over-expound on it. But the principle is this, there must be a consequence that will be effective enough so that the child will not want to disobey or will not do what they're not supposed to do. Huwag ka masyadong matagal dyan sa gadgets. Kung ginawa mo yan, ito yung consequence. Pag hindi mo ginawa yan, and instead you do this, ito yung reward mo. So that consequence must be sufficient enough so that they will see, okay, I don't want to do that because I don't want the consequence. Ayan po. So that is very important. Make sure you have a floor and a ceiling so that you can encourage and you can also create some form of discipline so that they will now do exactly what you want them to be able to do at home. In this case, we want to motivate them to learn. Okay, gagawin ko to. Sige, dahil may reward, encouraging, gawin natin yan. And it's very important that you also work with your teacher ng mga bata to find out ano ba yung ways that you can also provide this feedback to the child. Halimbawa, pag ginagawa niyo yung work na pinagawa ni teacher, tapos kailangan mong subaybayan or tulungan, what are the ways to provide good feedback, right? Ano ba yung mga kailangan bantayan para malaman mo na, oh sige, mukhang natututo yung anak ko, nakukuha niya yung konsepto. So work with your teachers in your respective schools so that you might know ano ba yung paraan, ano ba yung pwede kong maging role to provide this feedback and assessment of whether the child is learning and doing the work well. Yan. Finally, if we want to motivate them, so tatlo pong bagay, the final thing is, napaka-importante po nito, no? We've seen that because children are now learning from home, they're bringing the school experience to the home. Some children are looking at the home as parang, wow, gusto ko sana yung bahay, ito yung lugar kung saan ako maglalaro, makakasama yung pamilya ko. Hindi yung parang kailangan kong gawin yung work and it becomes a chore and it becomes difficult. So that association is creating confusion in the child's mind. So I encourage you as parents to continue to make sure na binabantayan niyo yung time of play ng mga bata. Kung ano man ang pinapayagan ng yung region for the protocols, allow them to still have play, allow them to have good physical exercise, and where possible, obviously, good sunshine, fresh air. This is not only good for their health, but it will also continue to keep them motivated because the home is still a place where they can enjoy. Ayan po. So, those are 4 quick key principles that should help us as parents to say, how can I motivate my child? Paano ba siya maging ganado to learn in the home environment? Let me recap. Ang basehan ko po again was these 8 principles that we've learned, that research shows. And for this first part of my sharing with you in this talk, we looked at the first 4. And as I close my time with you. I look forward to continuing the next 4 in the second part of my presentation a little bit later. So salamat po ulit sa inyo. Thank you for this opportunity to share principles that we hope will help you become better facilitators but also better parents in the home. Kasi nga po, ang napapansin namin ngayon, even as you help become learning facilitators at home, you are the parents first. And so many of these principles to help them to be motivated, to learn better, will actually find foundations in good parenting. So salamat po. I look forward to seeing you again later for part 2. Thank you very much. I'll turn you back over now to our host.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mendoza, for indulging us to become motivators of our children to become self-directed learning center. And you know what, Helen, one of the beautiful principles that Sir Edric has shared to us this morning is to make use of the love language that we have for our children to motivate them for learning. And that just reminds me of our own love languages, right, Helen? Your own love language is dominant of words and mine is on service. And definitely we can make use of this to connect with our children and motivate them to learn at home. In as much as we wanted our children to be self-directed of learning, it is still the hope of every parent to be able to discipline and preserve the rights of our children. The next topic shall educate us, especially our parents, on how to discipline our children and at the same time protect their rights. Our next speaker is a seasoned and well-rounded lawyer who has built a solid and comprehensive legal practice for the last 25 years. Attorney Jun, as he is fondly called by his friends, honed his top-notch lawyering skills handling various aspects of corporate law and litigation work in his capacity as associate, senior associate, and partner in the well-established law offices.
On the government side, Attorney Jun also served as consultant to various agencies of the Executive Department. He served as consultant to the Interagency Council Against Trafficking under the Department of Justice. Attorney Jun also served as consultant to the Department of National Defense. He is also a seasoned developmental law practitioner, having served as Deputy Country Director of the American Bar Association Rule of Law Initiative. In acronym, that's ABA-ROLI. Recently, Attorney Jun also served as consultant to the European Union's Justice Reform Portfolio.
And how about this, Helen? Attorney Jun also served as consultant to the prestigious Consuelo Zubel Alger Foundation, advocating for children's rights and welfare. Working closely with the Philippine Judicial Academy, that's under the Supreme Court, Attorney Jun helped draft rules governing examination of child witnesses in court. And as a fitting complement to his robust law practice, Attorney Jun is also part of the Legal Academy. And he is currently a part-time lecturer of law, teaching legal ethics, legal writing, and legal forms at the Far Eastern University Institute of Law. Attorney Jun also obtained his undergraduate degree in legal management from the Ateneo de Manila University and his Juris Doctor degree from Ateneo de Manila Law School. Ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hands together for Attorney Renato B. Lopez Jr.
Hello? Can you hear me? Am I coming in clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much to our hosts, Silvio and Helen, for that very generous introduction. Maraming salamat din po sa DepEd for allowing me to be a part of this very noble endeavor, ang Brigada Eskwela. Special thanks to my friend Yusek Tony Umali. And to all our viewers, lahat po na nakikinig ngayon, good morning. I understand our viewers are from the Visayas and Mindanao regions. So maayong buntag sa inyong tanan. I hope I said that right. This morning po, I am tasked to discuss with you some points on positive, non-violent form of child discipline. Okay. So I'm only given 15 minutes, so napakalawak pong topic niyan, but I will only discuss with you the more salient points. And then from there, I'm sure you can do your own research, you can find your own materials, no? And if you want, you can actually you can ask me through DepEd, and I'll be very glad to provide you with the other materials that you may want to use. So let's start. Let me share my presentation with you. Um, can you see my PowerPoint? Can anyone please tell me kung...
Yes, Attorney June, yes, we can see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Yusek. So, child protection, positive non-violence discipline. Ano po ba itong tinatawag nating positive form of or non-violent type of discipline? Ito po ay isang pamamaraan ng pagdisiplina kung saan ang focus po natin is on the positive, no? Rather than the negative, rather than the punitive. And ang core principle po nito is that children, as human beings, also have their dignity, and which should be fostered and nurtured, even in cases of misdeeds. Opo. Just sa trivia, kung hindi niyo po alam, ang word po na discipline actually comes from the Latin word disciplina. At ang ibig sabihin po niyan ay instruction or teaching. That's why in the early days, ang isa pong guro ay meron siyang mga disciples. Yan po yung kanyang mga, kumbaga yan yung kanyang mga pupils, no? Like Jesus Christ had his own disciples. So, but now, in the modern time, discipline through the years or through the centuries, through time, parang na-equate po yan to punishment. Now, how did we arrive from, instruction towards punishment? Positive discipline, ito po yung core principle niya. Sinasabi ko sa inyo, there are no bad children per se. Wala po talagang yung mga batang masasama. Ano? There are only bad behaviors or masasamang kilos given a particular set of circumstances, for example, or given a particular stimulus. The way they react can be bad. But the children themselves, per se, they're not bad. Okay. Palagi po nating alalahanin, if we are to adopt the positive form of discipline, it's the best interest of the child palaging ating nasa isipan, foremost, no? The paramount consideration of our decisions when it comes to our children should be their best interest. Okay. That goes for both the parents and the teachers. Oh, by the way, I'd like to commend yung mga ating viewers right now, the parents who are taking time out. I'm sure you're all busy to attend this webinar, and it's a very good opportunity for you to hone your parenting skills and even teaching skills, especially now under the new norm na parang we're given a new task, that is to be teachers of our children, whether we like it or not, no? Ganun po talaga eh. And I myself, I'm a parent, I have 3 kids. So medyo nag-a-adjust pa rin po dito sa ating tinatawag na new norm, online schooling. Ang batay nasa bahay habang nag-aaral. Ano po naman ang mga legal basis for adherence natin sa positive discipline? Well, on the international plane, first of all, there's the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, to which the Philippines is a signatory. Nandiyan din po ang 1987 Philippine Constitution. We have an old law, the Child and Youth Welfare Code, which is still relevant. We have the Family Code, which has express provisions on prohibition against corporal punishment. We have the Code of Ethics for the professional teachers. And on the administrative level, we have the Department Order of the Department of Education, number 40, series of 2012. I will discuss these later. So UN po, ayan po, Article 28 ng UNCRC states or gives importance to the child's human dignity. On the other hand, our Constitution, under Article 14, mandates to foster love for humanity and respect for human rights, including rights of the child. As I said, I mentioned earlier, the Family Code expressly prohibits infliction of corporal punishment upon the child. And the Child and Youth Welfare Act actually criminalizes the infliction of cruel and unusual punishment upon children, or those punishments that subjects the child to indignation and other excessive chastisement that embarrasses or humiliates him or her. So it's actually a crime po under the Child and Youth Welfare Act for us to inflict cruel and unusual punishment upon our children. Sa ating mga Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers, the teachers shall recognize the interest and welfare of learners are of first and foremost concern, and shall deal justifiably and impartially with each of them. Teachers shall not inflict corporal punishment. I think the best way, I've been mentioning corporal punishment since the beginning of my presentation, because I think the best way to understand positive discipline is to compare it with corporal punishment, which it seeks to deter actually. What is corporal punishment? Corporal punishment is any punishment in which physical force is used and intended to cause some degree of pain or discomfort, however light. Ito po yung traditional forms of discipline that parents, especially during the time of my parents, we're talking about parents born in the mid 20th century. Di po ba ang kadalasan nilang pamamaraan ng pagdisiplina ay pagpapalo, okay? Pagmubulyaw, paggalit, minsan pagkukurot, opo, minsan pinaluluhod yung mga bata. Okay, yan po yung mga forms of discipline nung araw na yan ang kadalasan nating naririnig, no? By the way, ang positive discipline po ay hindi bago. Ito po ay siguro nagsimula pa nung towards the start of the 20th century. It was first, I think, published or formalized in dissertation in the 1920s. And slowly it has gained ground. Now, especially among the younger parents, I think this is gaining popularity. So what is, again, let's go back to what is positive nonviolent discipline? It's the kind of discipline that focuses more on the positive and constructive. Positive discipline entails a partnership between parents and teachers. In school, teachers should respect students' developmental levels, their rights to dignity, and physical integrity. Positive discipline is not, take note po, it's not permissiveness. Hindi po ibig sabihin, nahahayaan na lang natin ang mga batang gawin kung ano gusto nilang gawin. It is not letting students do whatever they want. It is not having no rules. In fact, as I'll mention later, it's important to have a set of rules. It's not short-term reactions, or neither is it an alternative punishment to slapping, hitting, and shaming. Now, what is it? We've been talking about what it's not. Now, what is it? It is holistic. It applies not only to the children's behavior, but to all aspects of his or her learning and social interactions. It is strength-based, meaning it identifies and builds on the child's strengths. It is constructive, rather than punitive. It is aimed at strengthening the child's self-esteem and confidence, which is very important as the child grows. It is inclusive. It recognizes and respects the diversity of all children. It is proactive. It identifies the roots of behavioral and learning difficulties and implements strategies to promote success and avoid conflict. And it is participatory, as it engages students in the learning process and in the school community. Now, what are the key ingredients for us to be able to exercise positive discipline at home? Some of these were mentioned earlier by the speakers before me, these Drs. Javier and Mendoza. No? Number one, at home, and even in school, children should feel warmth. Ano po yung sabihin niyan? No? The child should feel physically and emotionally safe. That's very important for a child. Yung warmth po, yung pagmamahal na nararamdaman niya sa bahay at sa eskwela, yung trust ng kanyang nararamdaman sa kanyang kaugnayan sa eskwela, including the teachers, are very important and to form a very conducive atmosphere for learning. Remember, the child learns best and will cooperate more in a warm, safe, and caring environment. So number one po is warmth. Number two, as I said, there has to be structure, some rules. In school, this refers to the learning structure. At home, this refers to house rules. And it is important that we be clear about our rules and be consistent about our rules. We have to explain the reasons for the rules. And kanina rin nabanggit ni Dr. Mendoza, we have to be good role models in enforcing and complying with these rules. Very important also is for the parents and the teachers to understand the development that a child undergoes. Parents and teachers alike should understand the phases of child development. They should learn how to provide emotional support to the child who is changing physically, mentally, emotionally, and socially. You must bear in mind that during childhood, that's when a lot of changes are happening to a person in the shortest amount of time. So many changes, no, ang nangyayari. From 2 years old to 3 years old, ang laki pong pagbabago niyan. From 3 to 5, 5 to 10, the changes are exponential and they're intense. And this is what a child goes through. And it's important that the parents and the teachers understand this. The more they understand this, and the better they understand the child, the better they understand how children behave, and the better they are able to correct errant behavior. The warmth and structure that the parents and teachers provide to long-term goals will change depending on their stage development. So mag-a-adjust din po ang ating pakikitungo sa mga bata as they progress. We should also identify individual differences. This is basic. No? Ang mga bata po, ang mga tao, basically, ay iba-iba. In school, teachers should understand that while all children go through the same stages of development, may pagkakaiba yan. Ang kanilang pacing sa development, magkakaiba. The way they react to these changes, magkakaiba. They come from different homes and cultural environments and have different personalities, talents, temperaments, and abilities. A teacher who understands and respects students as individuals can make the difference between their success and failure in school. At home, parents should accept and recognize the diversity of their children. So, hindi porket anak nyo sila lahat, you expect it to be all alike, or to be all the same. It's never the case. Meron pong kaibahan yan. They each have their own unique personality, and we just have to understand and accept that, and then adjust our relationship with them in accordance with these differences. Now, what are some of the examples ng positive discipline? Okay. So kanina we mentioned some examples of corporal punishment, pamamalo, while they're using slippers or a belt or a whip. Ito naman po ay a few concrete examples ng positive discipline. For example, instead of pointing out what the child did wrong, you show the child how to set things right. Okay. For example, paano ba ito i-concretize? For example, ang bata po ay nakatabig ng baso, nalaglag sa sahig, nabasag. Okay. So, imbis na pagalitan natin yung bata to instill fear, mas mabuti po siguro na una-una, we ask the child, nasaktan ka ba? Because syempre may bubog sa sahig. And then we tell him, sa susunod, mas mabuti siguro kung maingat tayo sa pagkilos para hindi natin nasasagi ang baso at nababasag. Okay. And then let the child understand that it is okay, except that next time it's better to be more careful. What else? We have this what we call time in versus the traditional time out na sabi natin. Ang time out po na traditional method of discipline is when we ask a child to just stand in front of a wall for a certain amount of time, no? That's very unproductive, no? So why not just do a time in? Ano naman po itong time in? So, for example, ang isang bata nagkamali, meron siyang pinalo na isa pang bata. Okay. So, we'll set him aside, explain to him or her yung maling ginawa niya, and then sabihin natin sa kanya, o sige, hanggat hindi ka mag-sorry, we might as well stay here in one corner of the room and let us read a book. So instead of just standing in front of an empty wall, we use the time in a more constructive manner where we read a book with a child, and then hopefully may matutunan pa siya. Okay. Another example of positive discipline is we give the child choices. Example again, let's use the same example. Meron siyang pinalong isa pang bata. So we tell them what he or she did wrong, and then give him a choice on how to amend or rectify it. So sabihin natin, gusto mo bang mag-sorry na sa kanya ngayon? O gusto mo bang i-hug siya para ipakita nga bati na kayo? Because if we give the child a choice, somehow we're giving him the responsibility, no? And then if he or she makes a particular choice, then he or she owns up to that choice, and it becomes more effective. Use of single word reminders or questions instead of ordering or demanding sheer compliance. So for example, ang bata, nakalimutan niyang patayin ang ilaw. So imbis na, directly telling, oy, patay mo ang ilaw, you just remind him, ilaw, one word. And instead of appearing to be, instead of being demeaning, ang lumalabas lang doon ay reminding the child of what he or she needs to do. Lastly, let's have the child face the natural consequence of his or her misdeed, because every misdeed has a natural consequence. So if it's something that you think your child will be able to withstand, then I think it's also good na paramdam mo sa kanya yung consequence ng kanyang misdeed. Para nang sa ganun, maalala niya itong consequence na to, and hopefully that will deter the repeat of the same misdeed. Now, what is the government, particularly the DepEd, doing towards advocating for this positive form of discipline? Well, there's Executive Order number 40, series of 2012, as I mentioned earlier. And under this EO, there is also the formation of child protection communities. So the DO40, under the DO40, the department adopted the policy to ensure special protection to children and to assist the concerned agencies in their rehabilitation. Sorry, nawala raw yung slides ko.
Bumalik na, Attorney Jun.
Okay, good.
Galing, bumalik na.
It strongly adheres to the zero tolerance policy for any form of child abuse, exploitation, violence, discrimination, bullying, and other forms of abuse. At ito naman po, it prohibits the use of corporal punishment and promotes the use of positive discipline. So expressly under DO40, the DepEd promotes the use of positive discipline. And under the DO, the department ordered all schools, secondary and elementary schools, to create child protection committees. Ano naman po itong child protection committees? These are committees that are formed in schools. Ang members po niyan ay iba't iba. Merong yung head ng school, merong guro, merong parent, at meron in fact merong estudyante, merong member ng community. And their mandate is to initiate information dissemination about programs and organize activities for the protection of children. They are also supposed to establish a system for identifying students who may be suffering from significant harm. They are to monitor and implement positive measures and effective procedures in providing the necessary support for the child and for those who care for the child. Lastly, they are to ensure that the children's right to be heard is respected and upheld. So I think that's all I will be sharing with you for now. As I mentioned, ito pong positive form of discipline, nonviolent discipline, is a very, very rich topic, and it's very difficult to compress everything that's important in 15 minutes. But with what I shared, hopefully, if you want to know more, you'll be able to know where to look for the other information. Or if you want, you can just ask the DepEd and they'll ask me. I'll be more than happy to provide you with other materials that can help you practice a positive form of nonviolent discipline. So with that, maraming pong salamat. I hope ay kahit paano nakapagbahagi po tayo ng konting kaalaman at na-improve natin ang inyong kakayahan bilang partners ng DepEd in ensuring good education for all our children. Maraming salamat po.
Permit me to quote that there are no bad children, but only bad behavior. So it's a big no-no for corporal punishment. We'll go for the positive, non-violence form of discipline. So thank you so much, Attorney Jun, for enlightening all of us parents and educators to limit our poking alongside our love for education.